Hey, I've got some great examples of poultry in motion coming up right after this. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to Garden to Table. Well, today we're in a pretty unlikely place to be talking about food and food production. This is a poultry show, but I wanted to bring you here because if you look back at the history of production of eggs and meat when it comes to poultry, well, you're going to see breeds here that go back hundreds of years. For instance, take a look at this bourbon red turkey tom. This breed was developed in Bourbon County, Kentucky at the end of the 19th century. Today's poultry meat production and egg production is focused on just a few genetics, just a few types of birds. But in this show, you're going to see the great diversity, the great wealth of poultry that's still being raised today, heritage breeds. We'll talk to a couple of fascinating young ladies about their ducks. I also want to show you an easy way to make a delicious creme brulee recipe that you can make right at home. And if you've ever thought about raising a few chickens of your own, I have a breed that you may want to give a try. I need to get this big boy back in his pen. He's really heavy. Ansley, they're talking to each other.
Yeah.
They talk a lot, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they call them calls, because they're so loud.
Yeah, a long time ago they used to use them for live decoys to kill ducks.
I see, ones that look like mallards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the gray calls they use, that's right. Well, these are really cute. How did you do in the show this year?
With him we got second place, and with her we got fourth place.
I see. They're really, really beautiful. What is it that you like about raising ducks?
Well, I think they're little and cute.
They're very cute.
Yeah, and they're like little rubber duckies when they quack.
Yeah.
But they make a big mess when they splash in the water and stuff.
Do you have any other types of ducks?
Yes, I have some khaki camels at home.
Oh yeah, I love those. They're really pretty. Now you raise some chickens, don't you?
We started raising bantam salmon fab rolls.
Oh, they're pretty.
Yes. And then we moved on to buff Orpingtons, standard Orpingtons. And then my grandma said we should get standard fab rolls, so we got standard fab rolls too.
So the flock just keeps growing like Noah's Ark. Do you help take care of all these little animals that you have around the farm?
Yes, I do. I feed them, water them, get splashed on a lot by the ducks.
What is you like the most about them? Just watching them?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're very amusing, I think.
They do silly stuff.
So would you recommend to other people to have some ducks around?
Yes, I would.
Would just make their life happier, wouldn't it? Very good. Well, thank you for sharing your little call ducks with me today.
You're welcome.
Kaylee, these are some beautiful buff ducks you have.
Well, thank you. They're some of my favorites.
Well, when did you start raising ducks?
Last year, a little around last year.
But before that, you were raising poultry before, weren't you?
I was.
What are some of your favorite chickens?
Well, we like the buff Orpington.
Oh, that's a great breed.
Yes.
They're very gentle.
We like to call them gentle giants, and they're fun.
They are. Well, so I'm seeing a buff theme here, buff Orpingtons and then these buff ducks. Yeah, you must like that color pattern.
I really do. It's a very nice, light color, but it's easier to keep clean, for one.
And I think they're very amusing. They have great personalities.
They do. They're very fun to watch, and they play a lot in the water.
Yeah, well, would you recommend them to someone to have as a pet in their backyard?
I definitely would. They're very friendly birds, and they've been socialized, of course.
Yeah, just if you spend a little time with them. Yeah. So how did you do with these in this show?
I did fairly well, I think. He got a first place.
Oh, awesome.
She got a second.
Now these are supposed to be a pretty good egg layer, aren't they?
They lay pretty good. Mine had stopped laying for a little while because of the heat, but she laid an egg today. So.
She actually laid one here at the fair.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. She's kind of showing off, I guess.
Yeah.
That's really good. You know what's interesting, the same guy that bred these buff ducks bred the buff Orpington, and he used the cayuga, that black duck that's just so beautiful, and Aylesbury's and runners to come up with this. It's just amazing how these bird breeders can come up with new breeds. Well, Kaylee, thank you so much and congratulations.
Well, thank you.
I love it when I can take things here from the farm and put them to good use, delicious use in this case. I want to show you how I make coq au vin, a classic French recipe that uses, well, a tough old bird. The roosters often would get old and tough, and there was always an interest in how one could prepare one of these, and coq au vin is a classic. Now what I've done is I've taken a 7.5 pound bird and broken it down. And this took some doing, I'll tell you. I use any sort of tool I can, even my garden pruners, to break the bird into 8 pieces. And just look at the color of the flesh. This is the white meat. Look at that breast. This thigh is the dark meat there, you see. This is what a heritage bird looks like. Now, these birds are built stronger than what you would find in the grocery store today. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to break it down, and we're going to do this in a number of ways. We're going to brown the chicken before it goes into the slow cooker, and then we're going to cook it for a long time. And it's so delicious and so tender. And this recipe I break down in 2 parts. First is the meat part. What I've done here is I've salted and peppered the chicken. I have half of it that has been skinned and half of it with the skin still on, because I love the flavor of chicken skin and how it makes the coq au vin taste. Then I'm going to take this bacon and I'm going to fry it, and then we're going to brown the chicken. That's the meat portion. Then we're going to move to the vegetable side, and then we're going to assemble it all and put it in the slow cooker. And it'll be done. It's really quite simple, but it does take a little time. In a 12-inch nonstick skillet, cook 5 strips of bacon that have been cut into small pieces over medium heat until they're brown. Transfer the bacon to paper towels and drain. Next, you'll want to add the chicken into the hot skillet. 2 batches may be necessary, and brown over medium-high heat for approximately 10 minutes. All right, now with the chicken complete, it's time to prepare the vegetables. And what we use here are celery, onions, carrots, garlic, mushrooms, and some of these little onions. These are some we had drying up in one of the sheds in the garden, so I wanted to put these to use. Some recipes call for little pearl onions, but these were so small and beautiful and homegrown that I wanted to use them in the dish today. Roughly chop 3 small carrots, 2 stalks of celery, 16 large button mushrooms, 6 cloves of garlic, and 2 medium onions. Now you want to place these in the bottom of a large slow cooker. Then add your 8 pieces of chicken with about 16 whole small yellow onions. And then just place that bacon over the top. Then use a bottle of dry red wine to deglaze the pan. This is the skillet that you use. Then add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 dry bay leaves, and 9 teaspoons of fresh thyme. Then you want to heat to boiling, stirring to dissolve the tomato paste. This will take a few minutes. All right, with the glaze ready, let's go ahead and pour it over the bird here. Oh, that smells so good. And then we simply top it off with chicken broth. I'm going to bring it right up to the top. The amount you use will depend on the size of the bird you used as well as the size of the container. Now I'll cook this for 8 hours on low, and the results, well, mouth-watering. It's a great way to use a mean old rooster. So what do you think of this bird? This is one of our turkeys. I don't know if it's one of our blue slates or one of those blacks, but it's a heritage turkey nonetheless. So I'm getting ready to brine it because I think a brine turkey always tastes the best. And brining is really a process where you're just soaking the bird for at least 12 hours in salt water. And what I've been making here is about 8 gallons of brine. And what I do is I take 8 gallons of water. Let me finish adding the salt. I'll add 1 cup of salt per gallon. So I've got 8 cups of salt that I've been putting into this. Now you can season your brine just about any way you like. And the water here is just right out of the tap, so I didn't increase the temperature at all. So with that in place, you can then add flavors. I've known people to add molasses. You can make it sweeter with honey. Lots of different things can go in. But I'm making mine pretty basic. And I'm using some herbs and lemons. Taking lemons, quartering them, and squeezing them slightly so that it will acidify the water just a bit and give it a nice lemony flavor. So I'm taking 3 whole lemons and adding those. And then I'm going to use some bay leaves. I've got a dozen or so bay leaves that I took off one of my bay plants. They're handy to have around. And here are the bay leaves. Some of them are still connected to the stems. You just want to throw it in there like that. Really easy. If you look down in here, there's really not a whole lot to see. It's like a very thin, brightly colored soup. So mixing all this together. And then I have this thyme from the garden, which is a great way to flavor any kind of poultry in my opinion. And I've bundled it together, and I'm just going to push this down in here to help flavor the water. And what I've done with the thyme, before I put it in there, I crushed the leaves and squeezed them and bruised them so that they would release a lot of their essential oils in this mixture. You know, I tend to think about roasting the turkey, but I tend to always forget about brining it. So what I'm doing now is about 12 hours before the bird goes in, and this is about a 14-pound bird. It's going to just stay in this water. I can cover it over with some foil, and then it'll be ready to pop into the oven. So how long to cook a bird? Well, it depends on the size of the bird, whether you stuff it or not. I'm not stuffing this bird, and what I like to do is crank up the heat to about 450, let it cook in there for about 30 minutes. It seals in the juices, and then ratchet it way down to about 250 and cook it the rest of the time until it's tender. And I'm telling you, these heritage birds, they are so delicious. Keith, this is a bird that I believe was bred for both beauty and utility.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, these Silver Laced Wynadottes, I guess they came from the mid-19th century up around in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, up in the northeastern part of the U.S. is where it was created up there. One of the old American breeds that we have. It's a good dual-purpose type of bird. Primarily geared towards the cold weather environment, and it can be considered a decent egg-laying bird and also a dual-purpose meat bird.
You know, they lay a beautiful classic brown egg with some variation among these hens. We'll get all shades of brown. Are there some recommended minimums for the amount of space one should have?
Yeah, we would go minimum space is a 2 to 3 square feet per bird would be minimum.
Yeah.
The bare
What's the
minimum.
industry?
Industry is 2 square feet per bird for the hens. You know, that would be the minimum range. Get up to 4 or 5 square feet, 10 square feet per bird even.
Yeah, well, 10 per square feet, if you had 12 birds, it'd just be 120 square feet.
Yeah, and that's not much, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing I always suggest to people is make sure you can lock them up at night, because it's those nighttime predators that tend to get them. You know, one of the nice things about the Wyandottes is they've got just a great disposition. You can see how gentle these are.
Yeah, they're very friendly bird, gentle, kind of slow moving, not considered one of the hyperactive, high maintenance, high strung birds, but great for a family type situation, especially if you have kids and want to go out and feed the chickens and interact with them a little bit.
These are pretty young. These are really just about 9 to 10 months old, so just beginning to start to lay. I'm gonna let her go.
Yep.
There you go, girl.
I think they'll both be glad to get away.
Well, you may need to take a few Wyandotte eggs home with you.
I probably will. It's a good bird to have.
Good to have you here again, Keith.
Of course.
I don't know about you, but I love creme brulees. Chocolate creme brulees, any sort of flavor creme brulee you can come up with, I love them. You know, it's the sort of thing that you find on the menu at really high-end restaurants. But brulees are really easy to make. A few basic ingredients. Eggs, of course, and then you have some sugar, cream, and vanilla. To start, what you need to do is get a large pot of water, get it on the stove, and bring it to a boil, and then preheat the oven to 300 degrees. Then in a small saucepan, combine 2 cups of heavy cream to half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then what you want to do is you just want to heat this mixture on the stove on a medium heat until it just begins to come to a boil. That means the bubbles will form on the edges and a little bit of steam will come up from the bottom of the pot. And then just set this mixture aside and let it cool for about 15 minutes. Next, combine 6 egg yolks and 4 tablespoons of granulated sugar in a bowl. Now, what you'll find is a container with a spout on it will make pouring this concoction a little easier later on in the recipe. Then just add the warm cream mixture slowly as not to cook the eggs. Now comes the cooking part. What you want to do is line a 9 by 12 inch baking pan with a washcloth. You see, this is just to prevent the ramekins from sliding around. Then place ramekins in the pan and fill each one with the egg mixture. Then fill the pan with boiling water until the ramekins are halfway submerged. Then place this in a 300-degree oven for about 40 to 45 minutes. When the sides begin to set, you want to remove them from the oven and set the ramekins on a wire rack to cool at room temperature, and then refrigerate them for 3 hours or up to 2 days. And when you're ready to serve them, just sprinkle a tablespoon of sugar on top of each one and caramelize the sugar with a kitchen torch. Hey, the great thing about this is you can do these ahead of time and your guests will be so impressed. Enjoy. So good. Who doesn't love fall? It's such a great time of year, and when it comes to decorating, nothing could be easier. There's so much bounty to choose from. Look at this table setting that I've created. It's for 20 guests on these long, old picnic benches. Well, we use them as farm tables, and benches for people to sit on. But the real centerpiece is the taxidermy. I have some friends who are hunters, and every year in the fall I go, hey, can I borrow some birds? So we got this big wild turkey that's about to jump on something, probably a bobcat. And then I've got all these pheasants, vintage pheasants from antique shops, and they're all over the table. And around them, well, I'm just populating it with all the bounty from the season. I mean, we're talking gourds, apples, just apples you might pick up at the grocery store. These are galas, and these little small ones are crab apples. Crab apple is defined by any apple that's less than 3 inches in diameter. They're really cute, and they are really nice to tuck into some of the smaller spaces. You can see I've used pumpkins and some of these little knotty gourds. A lot of this stuff we grow here on the farm, and so it's just great to bring it in big tubs and just pile it up on the table. Now there is a little order to this arrangement. You see, the big bird is the centerpiece, and this is an eastern wild turkey that's mounted on a stalk, and then under it I've piled a lot of pumpkins. These Lumina pumpkins, just the classic New England pumpkin, and then various gourds and so forth. And then I've used Spanish moss to sort of fill in and cover the base. That's a great thing to sort of hide things you don't want to see. And then what I've done is on either side of the table, I've used these glazed ceramic jars, and in them I just put some floral foam just to support some of these hickory sticks that I gathered off the farm. And hey, I found some bird nests. I'm always saving bird nests. Got bird nests in each one of them, one here and one here, and then it's adorned with a little bit more of the Spanish moss. So the idea here is that we're using some of the same elements across the bottom of the table and right up into the trees. Color also plays an important role here, because if you look at the colors of these Chinese ringneck pheasants and the colors in this bird, all of the fruits and vegetables and gourds and so forth, like these apples, well, they're matching the reds that you see in the birds themselves. So that gives you a basic idea of the decorations. Now let's talk about some of the tableware itself. As you can see here, I have a placemat that's set on top of this farm table, no tablecloth, because I want this to have a kind of rustic feel, because after all, we are in the barn and it is the harvest season. And what I have here is a soup spoon, a knife with a glass that comes just right above the knife. And then I've got a dinner fork, a salad fork, and a dessert spoon right at the top here. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is place napkins, and I love these tea towels because they're very inexpensive and they fit the rustic theme. So right on top, I'm taking this cotton striped napkin. As I said, they're tea towels. They were very affordable at a discount store, so I bought tons of them. and I'm just laying them right across the top of the plate. And so the brown in this stripe is echoed in the placemat. Okay, now is the finishing touch. I've got some water pitchers I need to place on the table, salt and pepper, and I'm going to fill all between these decorations lots of little votives. I'm going to do 50 of them all the way down the middle of the table, and in a couple hours when the guests arrive, this whole table will be illuminated. I think it's going to be spectacular. I don't know about you, but I love the flavor of fresh turkey. And you know, we tend to eat turkey only during the holidays. It just doesn't make any sense to me because it's a wonderful meat to enjoy any time of the year. Now this recipe is a citrus-glazed turkey made for roasting a single breast like this. I just want to show you how easy it is. It has a delightful flavor to it. You know, we keep turkeys here on the farm. We have two breeds. We have Spanish blacks, which are very large, and blue slate turkeys, which have a beautiful sort of gray slate color to the feather. Both of these are birds that are threatened. They're heritage turkeys, and we keep them here because we have a conservation program underway. Now that doesn't keep me from eating them. They're quite delicious. Now let me show you what I'm doing with this 4.5 pound breast. I'm just going to take about a half a cup of olive oil, and I'm going to completely slather it with olive oil before I throw it in the oven. And I'm just going to put it in this roasting pan, and I'm going to let this roast for about 2, maybe 2.5 hours. Don't want to overcook it. Now I'm also going to take some salt and pepper. I'm going to salt the breast because I think the salt actually helps to hold the moisture in. It sort of seals the outer body of the breast. So I'm rubbing it down with that. And then I'm going to take some pepper here. Go ahead and throw some black pepper on it because I love black pepper. And there'll be black pepper in the glaze. We'll get to the glaze in just a moment. All right, so there we have it. Got the bird all oiled down. I'm going to place it on this pan, and I'm going to pop it in the oven. Now, with it in the oven, I'm going to work on the glaze, which is just a matter of taking some of my favorite members of the citrus family and combining them along with some honey and some other things. So let's start. I'm going to take this half a cup of honey and pour it into a bowl here. Just beautiful. There we go. I'm going to add the juice of 1 orange, but I'm also going to add another half because that breast is larger than I'm used to using. So I'm going to zest it in just a moment. Here's the zest of 1 orange, and here's the zest of 1 lime, and here's the juice of 1 lime. So what I'm going to do is add another half of orange, and I'm going to take another half of lime, and then I'm going to just zest this. Now for a little lime, and the proportions that you use, you can play around with this. This is just an idea. I mean, I've even done this before with some grapefruit, or if you don't have oranges, use tangerines or something like that. But what's so nice about this glaze is it's so fresh and bright. All right, there you go, that ought to do it. And now I'm going to take some more salt. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt here and cracked pepper. About a teaspoon of cracked pepper, something like that. Although I've already put a good bit on it already. And then I'm going to just whisk all this together. Now the idea here is to get this done ahead of time. You can stick it in the fridge or just leave it out while the breast is roasting. You want to brush this on about the last 40 to 30 minutes of cooking several times, 5 or 6 times. You want to use all of this up and just pull it out and brush it on, and then put it back in there, and then bring it out again and brush it down. I hope you'll give this a try, and I hope you'll eat more turkey throughout the year. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed being together as much as I have, and I hope you've picked up on, well, some ideas on what poultry has to offer. Right, girl? Until next time, good eating and good health.